Okay, let's begin our webinar. I want to welcome everyone to the Bluebeam Revu training webinar. This is a webinar presented by Orangeblade Consultants, and this is something that we are calling Getting Your Point Across. Now, in this webinar, we're going to talk about 10 super simple features that you can use to annotate your PDFs. Now, this presentation is, if you are a longtime user of Bluebeam Revu, you might see some things you've seen before, but even if you've used Bluebeam Revu for a while, stick around, you might find something useful anyway. Now, we're going to be recording this session, so be on the lookout for it on our website. We'll also put it on our YouTube channel, and if you want to find our YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and do a search for Orangeblade Consultants. So that should be where you'll find it. You'll also see you can also look for our Facebook page. Again, just look for Orangeblade Consultants, and we also have a Twitter handle right here @Orangeblade. So that's where we make a lot of announcements about the kinds of things that we do. Now, my name is Joel Marquez. I'm the Bluebeam product expert for Orangeblade Consultants. I first started using Bluebeam Revu about 8 years ago, working in the entertainment industry as a script continuity supervisor for low-budget horror movies. It's exactly what you think it is. It's very low budget and very horrific. But one of the things I did in my role in this job was to carry around a lot of large binders, and I had to manually enter script notes, and I had to use a pencil because stuff changes and you need to be able to erase a lot. And then after getting home, I'd have to work a couple extra hours to re-enter the information into a spreadsheet that would serve as the daily production report. So you can imagine how much paper gets used in this kind of scenario. So if you're anything like me, you would probably go crazy recopying information in order to get and produce that kind of a report. And you wouldn't rest until you found something that would let you get away from all that paper. So stop me if this sounds familiar to you. A lot of the people that we deal with here at Orangeblade Consultants are from the building industries, and so you're familiar with all the paper issues involved there. But that's not the only place that we could use Bluebeam Revu. So anything that has a lot of paper-intensive processes, we can turn into PDFs and then use Bluebeam Revu for its markup capabilities. But anyway, at this point in my work history, I needed a tool that would allow me to annotate these PDFs that would be generated instead of paper. So I found a way to get a PDF annotator on a tablet PC, and I needed to have it in a fast-paced environment where I could just really quickly add annotations on the go. And what I found for this was Bluebeam Revu, and this was around 2006. So we're talking about Bluebeam Revu 4.7. Now we're up to about 7 or 8 versions away from the version that I started out with. Okay, so our agenda today will cover some of the elementary features in the program that still might be surprising if you've never tried to add annotations to a PDF before. But again, Bluebeam Revu is definitely a tool designed for the building industry, and while we'll use some examples from that world, we'll try to keep it as universal as possible. Now, for the purposes of time, we don't have the chat room enabled, but if you have questions, please send them directly to our email address. Now, this is our training address here. If you want to send us questions about the webinar, or the kinds of things we're covering in the webinar, send them to bluebeam@orangeblade.com. Okay, so let's start with markups. Okay, here's the program that we're working with, and markups can be found right here in the Markups tab. Now, we have a lot of different kinds of markups, and if we click on some of these menu buttons here, we can see what some of those markup types are. Here's the text menu button, and we have a variety of different text-related markups that we can add to our page. We have a pen tool over here. We have a free-form hand-drawn pen or a highlighter that we can use. We also have lines, various kinds of lines, as well as shapes like rectangles, ellipses, clouds. Now, let's take a look at an example. Here's a script that I might have dealt with all those years ago. And let's just take a look at one of the markups that I can add. I'm just going to add a pen tool over here and start drawing with it. So I'll just write something over here. And if I were using a tablet PC, this would look a whole lot better, but I'm using a mouse, so it looks pretty ugly. So instead of using the pen tool, because I'm working off of a desktop machine, what I really want to do is add a text box to add a comment to this so I can communicate it, my thoughts to somebody else. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to right-click on it and select Delete. Right, now I'm going to go over to the text menu button and choose the text box. So here's what I'll do. I've got the text box tool selected, and now I'm going to add a text box to the page. I'm going to draw a rectangle to constrain the text that I'm going to type, and then I'm going to just type in the information that I want here. And then I'll hit Escape, and that takes me out of the tool. Now, that's pretty easy, and we have a fairly descriptive markup. So that's one way we can add commentary to this item. Now, let's take a look at another example. Let's say that I'm a teacher, professor, and I'm having to grade this essay that a student submits to me using PDF. So I'll open it up in Review, and I'll try doing the same thing here. So I'll grab my text box and add text to the page. Okay, so now I've added something that I'm communicating to the student. Now, one of the problems with this is that this is a lot easier than just printing out the pages and adding my comments using a pen or a pencil. Once you get used to adding text boxes like this, it might be tiresome to have to say the same things over and over again. So if I have to say this comment again down here, I could just create the whole text box and type from scratch, but then I'd have to do that every time I run into this issue. So one of the nice things one of the nice features that Bluebeam has is the ability to save your markups so that you can drag and drop them right back onto the pages. Now, this is a feature called the tool chest. So we'll explore the tool chest right now by going up to this upside down orange triangle. It's called the Tab Access menu, and it reveals a lot of other features that are contained within these side panels that we have over here. So I'm just going to choose the tool chest selection. Now, when I do that, I notice, first of all, that every item, every markup that I've created has been recorded for me under this Recent Tools section. So this last comment that I made here has already been recorded for me. So if I just click on it, now I can drag it to a new location over here. Now this makes it a lot easier. I have a wife who is a professor and grades a lot of these kinds of essays, and she's constantly having to say this same thing, cite your references. So if I can just drag and drop this, this saves me a lot of time. Now, let's go back to the screenplay example. Now, let's say that I'm a producer and I'm making notes for a lot of different production teams. So this note that I created here is for the writer or the director, but I can make another note for the art department. So let me just grab a text box over here and add my comment. All right, so there's my comment. Now, the problem with this is that it looks exactly like this comment over here. There's really no way at this point that I can distinguish this comment from this comment because they're both red. They both have a clear background. So how can I change this, the appearance of these text boxes so that I can distinguish between the two? So if I distribute this script to the various production teams, everyone will know whose comment refers to whom. I'm talking about color coding my comments. So if I click on this text box over here, I can change the appearance of it by going up to my appearance toolbar. And let me just add a yellow background to this so that it stands out a little bit more. So I've just clicked on the paint can icon and chosen the color yellow. Now I want it to stand out, but if I happen to have the text box on top of something, I don't want it to completely obscure what I have underneath. So what I'll do is I'll change the opacity or the transparency value of this to something like 40%. Okay, so now even if it's on top of something, whatever I have underneath shows through a little bit. Okay, so now I've changed the appearance of this text box. So now it looks a little different than this. Let me also change the text color so that stands out apart from this comment over here. Okay, so that works, and I could maybe change each comment as I go along, but as we saw with the other example of grading papers, it's going to be tedious to have to do this over and over again. What I'd really like to do is save the appearance of these comments without having to save the content of the comments. Now, if we go back to our tool chest, we'll see over here that under recent tools, we have the exact comment that we made before, and if I click and drag it back onto the page, I get a clone of my original comment. But that's not really what I want to do here. I want to have a yellow background with blue text and color code that so that I know that this goes to the art department and not to the writer or the director. So what I have to do is change this. I'm going to just get rid of this one right here. I want to make sure that the saved markup under recent tools here is saved not using the concrete content over here. I want it to save only the appearances. So I can do that by right-clicking on the item under recent tools and choosing properties mode. What I'm doing here is saving only the properties and not the content. Now see how the icon changes. Instead of giving me a little thumbnail that represents the clone of the comment, it gives me this sort of generic text box icon with a yellow background and blue text. So now if I click on it and and move my cursor over to the page, you can see that instead of giving me a clone of the markup, the original markup, now I have the text box tool, and now I can apply it to the page. Okay, so now I've created a color coding for my art department. Now, how do I save this? I'm gonna want to be able to save this, because if I don't, then I'll just keep having to refer to recent tools. And the problem with this recent tools section of the tool chest is that it will disappear if we close the program. So once we close the program, all the items saved here for this session will go away, and we want to save these permanently. Now, one way we can save that is to take the tool that we've created and drag it from recent tools into a different area. And these different sections are called tool sets. So I'm just going to drag it to my tools right here. Now I've stored it permanently. So if I want to access the particular color-coded comment type that I saved, all I have to do is click on it, or alternatively, these items here are all numbered. So if I need to make a quick comment, but I don't want to reach all the way over here for my specific tool, all I have to do is hit the number that represents it. So I'll hit the number 7 right now, and that gives me the tool in question. Okay, everyone got that? Now that's basically how we would build a color-coded library of comments. Okay, now one of the problems that we might have using a text box method of commenting on a PDF is that it's not really specifically referencing any particular part of the PDF. If I have this comment right over here, I'm not completely sure where my eye is drawn to. I don't necessarily know that I'm referring to this part of the PDF over here. Similarly, if we go to this essay again, the student might not know that I'm referring to this reference right here or this reference right here. So I need some way to draw attention to the item on the page. And the best way to do that is to use the Cloud Markup tool. So let's talk about that right now. If we go back to our Markup tab and go to the Shapes pull-down menu, one of our options is the Cloud tool. Now, if we select the Cloud tool, or alternatively use the letter C, which is the keyboard shortcut for the Cloud, now we have a tool that looks like this. Now, to apply the tool to the page, we can either click and drag to create a rectangular shaped cloud, like so, or we can use mouse clicks to create an irregularly shaped cloud with multiple corner points, like so. Now that's one way to draw attention to an item on a page that you are trying to link your text to. Now another way we might want to do this is to use the arrow markup. So if we go over to the Lines menu button, we can choose arrow and have the arrow begin here and point to the cloud. Now that's clearly the arrow is clearly pointing to the item that you are linking your text to. Now the problem with that is that it's several different mouse clicks. We have to create the text markup to begin with. Then we have to create the cloud, and then we have to create the arrow. That's 3 different items. And again, keeping in the theme of Bluebeam Revu, trying to automate or make these processes go simpler for you, there is a way that we can combine all of these items into a single markup. So let me get rid of all the items on this page right now and introduce everyone to the Cloud Plus tool. Now, if we go over to the Markup tab again and go to the Shapes menu button, we have a Cloud Plus icon. Now, for all of you long-term Bluebeam users, Cloud Plus is a new addition to the later versions of Bluebeam Revu. So if we click on Cloud Plus, we have several components of this markup. So I'll first draw a cloud around the referenced item. And when I do that, I have what looks like a box jutting out from the cloud. So this is actually a text box, and this allows me to position the text box wherever I want. So I'm just going to put it up here, and then I'll type your reference, and then I'll hit escape. Now I have a 3-part markup. I have the cloud, I have a connecting line, and a text box, all in one markup. So that's Cloud Plus. Now, the Cloud Plus markup can also be defined with a color scheme. So let's go back to our screenplay example and get rid of these markups over here. And now I'll use the cloud markup and refer to this bench again. I'll draw my cloud, and then I'll position my comment and start typing. Okay, that was a lot simpler than creating cloud, a line, and a text box separately. But I do want to color code these. So how do I do that? Now, to color code something as complex as the Cloud Plus, we'll want to use a different tool that's in the program. Now remember, we talked about these side panels over here, how to access them by going over to the Tab Access menu. Let's go to our Cloud Plus tool that we created here. Make sure that it's selected, and we know that it's selected because we've got these yellow points surrounding them. Now we'll go over to the Tab Access menu and select Properties. Now this produces a side panel over on the right labeled Properties. And in fact, because the Properties side panel is contextual, that is, that it refers to the item that's been selected, if we click on this other text box over here, we'll get something that's labeled Text Box Properties. If we click back on the Cloud Plus tool, we'll have a Cloud Plus Properties panel. And this is dynamic, so this means that we can assign different appearances to different components of the Cloud Plus markup. So let's change the properties of the cloud itself. Let's use our yellow fill. Let's make that 40% of an opacity. Let's also make the line that surrounds all these items here, let's make that blue. We also want to make the cloud markup have a blue outline as well. And we want to change the fill color for the text to match what we had for the cloud. So we'll change that to yellow and make that 40% as well. And we'll change the text color to blue also. And so now we have a new tool that we've created that is color coded to match the department we want everyone to be associated with. Now, if we go over to our recent tools, notice that instead of the clone of the tool that we created, Revu is smart enough to know that if we create a Cloud Plus tool, and it records it under recent tools, we're going to want it to already be in the properties mode so we don't have to switch it from the clone mode, or what Bluebeam Revu calls the drawing mode. So it's already in the properties mode over here. So all we'll have to do is click and drag it to the new position. Now, if we want to make a new comment using these properties, all we have to do is select it or hit the number 8. All right, so now we've made two comments for the art department, and we didn't have to redefine the appearance properties. So that brings us to, now we can do this, we can create another library of these various comments here simply by creating a new comment and then saving it to the tool chest. Now I'm just going to briefly show how we can do that a little more quickly than just adding it to recent tools, or adding it to a tool set from recent tools. So let's say that we have a comment here for our writers, and we want to color code this so that the text is green and has a let's give it a purple background. That's awful. Let's make that a different color. All right, that'll work. So now we want to save that to our My Tools, and if we right-click on it and select Add to Tool Chest, now we can choose the tool set to save it to. So that's a quick way of saving your tools to any given tool set. All right, so let's move on to another feature that we want to talk about. So we're going to talk about highlighting text now, and some features that you might not have seen with the highlighter tool before. So I'm going to go over to this example here. And this is an academic research paper that we want to work with. We want to highlight and study as if we were looking at a textbook and highlighting it for future reference. So one way we can do that is to use the Bluebeam highlighter tools, and they contain some features here that make it a lot easier for us to highlight text material. Now, ordinarily, if we want to use the highlight tool, we can go over to the Markup tab, choose the pen menu button, and select the highlight tool. Now, typically, if we are working with some kind of background here and just started applying the highlighter tool, we get this free-form highlighter markup appearance. But what we're trying to do with this kind of academic study is to highlight text. So if we find some text that we want to highlight, watch what happens to the highlighter tool. So it looks like the mouse pointer graphic looks like a standard highlight pen, but if we hover over text, watch what happens. It changes to a text tool. So this allows Bluebeam this allows Revu to be constrained to the text that you're selecting. So instead of getting the free-form text, we get something that looks like this. So this highlights, or this constrains the highlights to the text itself, so it doesn't stray outside of its boundaries. Now, if for some reason this isn't working for you, what you'll want to do is to go over to the preferences and make sure that this preference is selected. So to go to your preferences, go over to the upper right corner and select the settings option, the settings menu button, and choose preference. And this will bring up the Preferences dialog box. Now, this feature is enabled under the Tablet section of your preferences. So just click on Tablet under the Preferences column and make sure that this checkbox is turned on. If it's not turned on, then this is what's going to happen. We choose our highlight pen again, and it doesn't get automatically constrained to the text. So let's go back into the preferences and make sure it's turned on. Now, what if we want to do a free form highlighter? So let's pick that highlighter again, or use the H, which is the keyboard shortcut. By default, if we put it over text, it gets constrained, but if we now want to do a free form, we'll hit the Control key as the keyboard modifier that allows us to use the highlighter tool in a free form manner. Now, that's useful in and of itself, but there's an additional feature that allows us to really do some academic study of text and then refer to it later as we want to review our notes. So ordinarily, if we were just doing paper, we would flip through the pages and look for the highlighted items in order to give our brain another chance to look at the important material that we've highlighted. But there's another way to do this, and one of the beauties of having all this information be electronic is that we can capture the material that the highlighter pen highlights. So I'll show you how to do this. So this is a feature that needs to be activated. It's not turned on by default. So let's go back into Preferences under Settings. And if we go over to our Markup selection under the Preferences column, you'll see a checkbox labeled Copy Selected Text into Text Markups. So I'll just click on that to make sure that that function is turned on. Okay, so now let's take a look at this document. We'll just scroll through it and we'll see some item that we want to highlight. So I'll hit the letter H to turn on my highlighter, and then I'll highlight the selected item. Okay, so that looks exactly like the highlighter that we did before. But if we open the markup list, and the markup list is another side panel, but it's by default in the bottom side panel position. So we'll go over to the Tab Access menu and select Markups. And we can see all the markups that we've created. Now, the ones that we created before, there's nothing particular about them, but look at this last one that we created. Under the comment field, the text has been captured to this column. So you can imagine now that as I scroll through the document, I'll go through different pages in the document, and as I capture text in here, the program will highlight the material, but also capture the text that I regarded as important. Now, the usefulness of this is that when I'm finally done reviewing this document, now I can go back into Bluebeam Revu, look at the comments field for each item, and I can reference what page they belong to by going to the page index column. If for some reason your page index column isn't visible, you'll want to turn on that menu option by going over to the columns menu button and making sure that page index is selected. But now we know what page it's on. This is on page 4. And this is on page 2, and all these other ones are on page 1. So this allows us to review our highlighted material in a way that is not just a quick way to review the text, but it's also interactive. So let me show you what I mean by that. If I click on any of these markups, it takes me to that markup in the viewing area of our program window. So if I click on this item here on page 1, the program jumps to page 1, and now I can see not only the text, but the context of the paragraph in which it appears. Similarly for this item here, this will jump to page 2, and I can see the full context of the highlighted material. So this allows me to review my documents, but also give me an important navigation tool that lets me jump from page to page for the comments that I'm reviewing and regard as important. Okay, so that covers the features with the highlighter pen that I wanted to cover. So let's move on to another scenario using a different feature. Let me move on to a different item here. This is an architectural building example. So I promised that this would be mostly non-building examples, but this is really the best way to convey how these features work. So let's say that we have a document over here that we have a question about. So let's say that we're building this building, and here are the plans for the building, and we're on the job site, and we have a question about the kind of windows over here that need to be built. So we've got to ask the architect about the specific part that they wanted to include for this window. Now, in the architectural scenario, we on the job site would want to ask the question in the form of an RFI, or request for information. So we typically have a form called an RFI form where we would add our question and as much descriptive information as we can include so that the architect knows what we are referencing. So rather than just typing in a textual description of our question and opening ourselves up to possible misunderstanding, what we'll want to do is clip part of the drawing and then paste it into our form. So we'll go over here and we'll have to grab an area over here. Now, in order to do this, we're going to use the Snapshot tool. Now, the Snapshot tool is a tool that allows us to clip a section of the PDF and paste it either into the same document or to a different document entirely. So to get to the Snapshot tool, we'll go over to the Edit menu and choose Snapshot. Now, the Snapshot is this camera icon over here, and we can also see that if we hover over the camera icon, we also get the keyboard shortcut that represents it. But for now, I'm just going to click on it, and that gets me a mouse pointer that has crosshairs and a camera icon on it. So that lets us know that we're dealing with the snapshot. So I'm going to grab a clipping of this document right here by drawing a rectangle and then letting go. Now there's a brief flash of a light color blue, which tells us that it's being copied to the clipboard. And now I can go back to my other document and paste it right into place. So I'm going to just right click here and select the paste button. And now I have my graphic. Now these are resizable because we've got these yellow control points like so, and I'm going to resize it so it fits into the description box. So this by itself is not really sufficient. We need to ask a question here, and so we can do that by using a cloud tool. So we'll just hit the letter K to get our cloud tool icon, and I'm going to draw a cloud around this area right here, and I'm going to start typing my question. So there's my question, and then I can send that off pretty quickly to the architect and expect an answer in return. Now, that in itself is, just by using the Snapshot tool, I've captured most of the information that I want, but I may also want to add a picture or some kind of image. So if I'm on the job site, I've got a couple different examples that I can use. So I'm going to add a picture to this markup by itself. Now, to do that, let's see, let me just add another addendum to this question. So I want to present the architect with an example of what I think it should look like. So I can just simply add an image by going over to the markup menu and clicking on the image button, and then find the image that I want to use. And then just add it to the page. So that's a quick way to add images to the page. But I can also embed this image right into the markup itself. So let me get rid of this image right here. If I right-click on the markup, one of my options is the capture markup, or the capture option. So if I select capture, now it's going to jump to an open dialog box where I will find the image that I want to capture. So now I have this icon right here in the lower right corner of the text portion of the Cloud Plus markup, indicating that there's an image associated with the markup. So the benefit to this is that if we were to move this markup, the cloud, or the capture element moves along with it. If I click on the markup, or if the recipient of this document clicks on the capture icon, we get this dialog box right here, which allows us to display the image in question. Now, we're not just limited to simple images, JPEG or otherwise. We can also add video. Now, my machine here, my desktop machine, doesn't have a webcam or a camera, but if I did have one, or if I were on a mobile device or an iPad, this option right here, the video option, would be available to me. I can click on it and start filming video. So this allows me to introduce video to my documents. So the capture feature allows us to embed multiple media items in a sequence within the markup itself. So if I were to add additional images, if I wanted to add another image to it, I could click on this button right here, and it would allow me to add more images to this sequence. And if I wanted to delete it entirely, I could just hit this trash can button and get rid of it. But for now, I'm just going to click away from it. Now let's go over to this example here. If I wanted to embed that same, or if I wanted to embed an image here, I can just right-click on this cloud markup, hit the capture button, and then find the image that I wanted to embed, and then if I click on it, this is an example of what I was talking about. So this allows us to really quickly communicate our ideas to the recipients of the PDF in a way that that allows us to do it with images instead of really long textual messages. Okay, now back to this RFI example. we wouldn't necessarily always have to include capture images to this, because from our perspective, as the people on the job site asking the questions, we may just want to ask the questions and have the architect answer in their own way. So, I'm going to delete this captured image, and then just add the image directly using the image markup tool. So from the perspective of the recipient, we can just answer the question by adding the image directly. Okay, so that covers some of the workflows that we might use if we were using the capture or add image functions. Now let's look at kind of a hidden feature in Revu that doesn't get a lot of play, but it's pretty useful nevertheless. So let's go back to this screenplay example, and let's look at our tool chest. Now, one of the tool sets that we get when we install Bluebeam Revu for the first time is this one right here. It's called Sequences and Actions. This is preloaded for you, but it gives you an idea of what this feature does. So I'm going to click on this circle right here, and I'm going to just start dragging and dropping it onto the page. Here's one, there's another. Look what happens. As I drop each item onto the page, it iterates the number contained within the symbol to the next number in the sequence. So that's why this feature is called the sequence function. To end the sequence, I'm just going to hit the escape button, and that ends it. So now I have these 3 items over here that represent a different number. Now, in this example here, why would we even want to do this? Well, as a script supervisor, you would typically want to record each of the camera setups so that the editor down the road can look at it and see what material was covered by each camera setup. Now that's one way to do it. So this would be one camera setup, and this would be another one, and then we could just show that this camera setup covered this amount of material. Now, there's another example that might make a lot more sense. There's one of the training clients that I had involved a mechanical engineering company who had a spreadsheet of comments and that were labeled by a sequence of letters that they wanted to reference using a procedure of dragging and dropping symbols onto a page. So just imagine a spreadsheet that had a list of comments on it, and they were all numbered according to a particular sequence. Now, the sequence that they used was a letter sequence. So the numbered sequence that we have here isn't going to work for this scenario. So let's create one here from scratch using a letter scenario instead of a number scenario. So I'm going to zoom in on this and create a circle using my ellipse markup tool. I'm just going to draw a perfect circle by holding down the Shift key to make sure that my ellipse is a perfect circle. Okay, now I'm going to create a text box, and I'm going to draw the constrained area over there, and I'm just going to type a symbol in the middle of it. I'm just going to hit the letter X, because it really doesn't matter what letter it is that you add to this. The sequence function will take care of the sequencing itself. So I'll just hit OK, or hit escape, and drag this text box right there in the middle of the circle. Now, what I want to do is group these two together so that they are they become one single unit. So I'm going to use my lasso tool under the Edit menu button. I'll choose Select and then Lasso, and then select the two of them. And then I'm going to right-click. Now, I want to make sure that I right-click not on the text, but on the circle. So I'll right-click on the circle and select Group. Now it's one element. Now, what I want to do from here, you can see that this X with the circle in it has been saved to Recent Tools. So now I'm going to grab it and drop it into My Tools. And now I'm going to right-click on it right here in the My Tools section of my tool chest, and I'm going to select Sequence. And I'm going to choose my Define option, and this allows me to create a sequence according to my my specification. So I don't want the numbering style to be this Arabic numeral style. I want it to be incremented in terms of letters. So I'm just going to use lowercase alphabet letters. So that's my style, and that's all I want. I don't want anything to precede or follow that the letter sequence. Okay, and then we're just going to leave these at the first increment. If I change this number to 2, for example, it would start on the letter B instead of the letter A. All right, so that's all I need here. So I'll just hit the OK button, and notice how it changes the item in the tool chest. So instead of having the letter X, I now have the letter A, and that's the starting point of this particular sequence. Okay, so now I'll zoom out, and if I had my Excel spreadsheet with all the comments, I would take the first item that it references, and I'll drop it onto this item over here. And then I'll look at the second item on my spreadsheet and drop the next item in the sequence on this little doohickey over here. And then I'll look at the next item and drop it onto this thing over here, and just keep doing that as I go through my sequence. So that's another way we might be able to use this tool. Now, if we hit Escape, the sequence ends, but look at what we have here on the tool set. We have the next item on the list, which is the letter E. So if we wanted to resume the sequence, we just click on it again, and it starts where we left off. On the other hand, if we wanted to turn off the sequence, we can just click on the play button right here, and that resets it back to the beginning. Okay, so that covers the sequences option. Again, if this is going a little too fast, or if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to email us, bluebeam@orangeblade.com. All right, so I've got one last feature that I want to review here. Now, if we're looking at these sequences over here, and these are really just markups. We just created this by making a circle and a text box and group them together. But these are still markups. So we can do other things with them. If we wanted to attach a picture to this markup, we can click on it and choose the capture option. But we can also do another feature, and this is what we want to cover today. We can add a hyperlink to to any markups that we add to our page. Just like with the capture option, if we right-click on a markup, one of our menu options is Edit Action. So if we select this item here, we can now hyperlink this to any number of several different items that we might, hyperlink options that we have available to us. So we can, now this is a one-page document, but if this sequence item here represented an item that's on page 17, we can have it jump to page 17. Now, because we don't have a page 17 in this document, this is not going to jump to anything. So let's look at an example that might make a little more sense. So we have, back on this document, we have, we might have an occasion to have this reference an item that is on a different page. So if we right-click on this and choose Edit Action, we can have it jump to page 13, like so. And if we hit OK, we'll see that a new icon appears in the lower right-hand corner of the markup. Now, this is a hyperlink option, so if we click on it, it'll jump to this page. Now, if we want to, and this will hold for any time you use a hyperlink option, if you go down here to the navigation bar and click on this Previous View button, it will take you back to whatever it was that you were looking at last. So this is a really helpful way to get back to where you hyperlinked from. Now, we can also hyperlink to a specific area. That's what Snapshot View represents. If we click on Snapshot View, now we can click on the Get Rectangle button, find the page that we want to reference specifically, and let's say that it's this page right here, page 12. We want to have this reference this set of details over here. So we'll draw a rectangle around this. And now the action has been loaded with the X and Y coordinates of the item that we're hyperlinking to. So if I hit OK, and then click on Previous View to get back to this hyperlink, now if I click on it, I jump to a specific section of the page instead of a fit in page view. Now, one last example to show how this might be used in the real world. Let's go back to our screenplay example. Remember this bench over here? Okay, we have a picture of it right here, but we don't really know where this picture came from, and we'd like to reference the web page that we retrieved it from so that we can tell our art department where to get it. So I'll just right-click on this markup and choose Edit Action. And then under this hyperlink selection right here, I want to find the web page that contains that bench. So I'll go over here, and there's my website link. I'll just copy that to the clipboard and then paste it right there into the hyperlink field. So now, if my art department knows that they can click on this lightning bolt symbol, if they click on it, it not only opens up the web page, but it does it in Bluebeam Revu. Bluebeam Revu has a built-in web browser called WebTab, and it's really just Internet Explorer from Microsoft. So it opens it up right in the program, so it doesn't have to open up any other web page. That's one of those hidden features that that a lot of people don't know about unless they use some of these hyperlink functions. Okay, we're right at the end of our time here, so I'd like to present our contact information and let everyone know what Orange Blade is all about. Okay, so here we are. So we are a Bluebeam Platinum reseller, and we offer guaranteed best prices for Bluebeam software. So you can talk to us about getting volume discounts or even educational discounts. We also offer training and consulting. We can do webinar-based training. We can do one-on-one over a web conference. We can do live training for groups of personnel. We can come right to your site and present to you directly. We like to take a consultative approach to our training, and we like to customize it for your particular workflow. So whether you're looking at basic feature training, kind of stuff that we talked about today, or high-end enterprise consulting for large-scale collaborative projects using some high-end Bluebeam features like Bluebeam Studio, we can do all of that for you. So we're also not just a Bluebeam training house. We do training for Revit architecture, Navisworks. We do training for lead consulting and analysis. We're basically all things BIM through OBC Studios. That's what we're calling our training arm of Orange Blade Consultants. So feel free to call us 480-559-8670 or email us at training@orangeblade.com. Also, if you are an Orange Blade customer and you are attending the Bluebeam Extreme Conference in San Diego next month, join us at our customer event at the Shout House on the evening of August 15th. We send out RSVP instructions over email around July 13th or 14th. If you have any questions about that, you can also contact us directly at bluebeam@orangeblade.com. And finally, the buy 5 for the price of 4 promotion has been extended. So if you want to take advantage of this promotion, just see our website, orangeblade.com. That's orangeblade.com. Or just talk to us. We like to talk. So 480-559-8670. Okay, thanks everyone for sitting in on our webinar, and have a great day.